Now you will learn how scientists write a letter to our descendants that will never become outdated. The truth is that our everyday language is regressing to the level of cave people. Can we communicate without using words? And who will be able to understand us in 10,000 years? You know, hashtags are an interesting thing. With them we can find news, facts, advice, interesting movie moments and anything else. But most people still don't understand how to use them. It was invited by a Twitter user named Chris Messina. Who is he? It doesn't matter who he is, but the important thing is that he discovered something incredible in the physical world that is very important in the era of social media. At the same time, the hashtag symbol became a trend even before the appearance of Twitter. Long before phones and classical music, several thousand years ago, ancient people left it in chaos, even though at the same time in North America, Europe, India and Africa. In addition to the hashtag, anthropologists have found 31 symbols that people painted on cave walls 40,000 years ago all over the world. These symbols are universal and can mean anything. If these symbols are interconnected, then what do they mean? There is a theory that stick and drawings represent various male activities such as hunting and battles, while small triangles represent female genitals, and the zigzags and spirals were painted by shamans under the influence of drugs, but these are just guesses. Living languages are made up of words, and words constantly change their meaning. For example, the word fat and word bad used to mean wealth and inheritance 800 years ago. Someone could compliment another by saying fat butt. Fat butt, yeah. But it doesn't quite work as a universal language. In a universal language, we need to move away from words and transition to symbols. He is a deadhead. It's not just the Jolly Roger on pirate ships. There were many different flags. This is a universal symbol of death, but also of illnesses before it. This sign has been on hundreds of different banners. He is an officer in the Prussian army, and he has a plan from the US Air Force. This is a message to the enemy that he is not afraid of death. Like, come here. I'm not afraid of death, and I'm not afraid to kill, but in the Middle Ages, this was a symbol of salvation. In many paintings, the blood of Christ washes Adam's skull, and thus cleans all humanity of sins. Yes, everything used to be so symbolic, but now you can find skulls with bones on water bottles for kids, or bottles of poison. But what people think of it in 500 years? Maybe it's a symbol of equality, like we all look the same inside, it's not just my curiosity. In 1918, the US decided to secure a nuclear waste repository in the New Mexico desert. They asked scientists and designers to come up with a sign that would scare people away from the storage facility. Even after 10,000 years, they came up with many options. For example, there was an acronym. A person touches the box with the sign transfers to him and it kills him. But how do you know that people of the future will read from left to right, read in the opposite direction, and the person of the future reading from right to left may think that this box doesn't kill, but rather puts the dead on their feet. Giant concrete spikers are scary on the surface, meaning something terrible both above and below the ground. Passerby will feel anxious and want to live, logically, but the philosophers came up with the most original version. It is necessary to breed a certain type of genetically modified cats that will glow from radiation. They can last thousands of years, even if humanity regresses to the Stone Age, but legends will say when a cat starts glowing, it's better to run away. The language of ancient Egypt was to opposite the symbols, all these birds, circles, and people remind me of something. Of course, that's right, emojis. Someone will say that we are deciding to the level of ancient Egyptians. But in fact, that's not the case. Emojis represent a whole object or emotion, while hieroglyphs are a constructor by which words are built. Here is a lion and a vulture. They simply represent the sound L and A in the name of Cleopatra. It is always read from the side the animals are looking at, so emojis lose their universality. They cannot describe abstract scenes or names, but this doesn't prevent them from being used as evidence in court. Here is a funny example. A couple Israeli was looking for housing, and after viewing one of the options, they sent the owner of the apartment this message. This is a message from the apartment owner. He posted an ad for renting out the apartment, but the family simply stopped responding. As a result, he sued them and took back $2,000 from them for instilling false optimism with their positive emojis. There are many such stories. Smiles and emojis are increasingly being mentioned as evidence in court. They are often used to quote various types of drugs. Write a capsule or a snowflake, and you won't prove anything, but only in court. Some disagree with this and put emojis on pious language. Here's what you see here. Give me 5. Or is this a prayer? Or an Indian greeting namaste? Or beloved phrase in emoji form? It will have as many meanings as the number of people who read it. And how will our descendants decipher all of this? Where will they get dictionary from? For example, it's hieroglyphs. It's a different story. We know them in sense to Rosetta Stone. This is a stone slab with the same text in 3 different languages: Ancient Egyptian, Late Egyptian, and Greek. The last one is well known to us. This is the language of the Odyssey, the Iliad, and the Bible. Scholars just compared them with 2 others and gained access to all cultures of ancient Egypt. The Rosetta spacecraft was named in honor of the stone. It was the first to orbit a comet and even landed a probe on it. It carried a nickel disc on board that had 30,000 pages of information in 1,500 different languages. They can restore the language we speak today. Nothing will happen to it in 10,000 years, and it can be read with an ordinary microscope. They propose to store many such disks on Earth, right under our noses. In other words, this is the same Rosetta Stone, but for people from the future. And we're in the role of ancient Egyptians. But how do we say something to entities that not only speak differently, but also think differently and are constructed completely differently? Humanity has already composed such messages, for example, like the pioneer plaque. Only the descendants of those who hunted with bows and arrows will understand the meaning of the arrow, but the golden disc that Voyager has already carried beyond the boundaries of solar system, with music, human voices, various images, and a message from American President Jimmy Carter. Those will be understood by all. But English has already changed since Shakespeare's time. Also, it's only been 400 years. What will happen to it in 4,000 years? We need a universal language. Symbols combine with each other like 2 chemical elements to create new meanings. For example, the one invented by Charles Bliss. In his language, it's enough to know several tens of basic symbols, such as mouse, eye, ear, nose, and action sign. Together with the symbol for mouse, it means speak. Eye, see, ear, hear, nose, smell. Mouse plus ear means communication. Together with electricity they create a telephone. And if you take an object with a digital device, you will get a smartphone, while you ponder the symbol of Bliss language. Think about how much we could simplify our writing without losing meanings. It's like a universal language, right? However, such a language would be unreadable for extraterrestrial beings because it is built on our sensory organs. We don't know what their earth, eyes or mouths are like, or if they even have them. So what kind of message should we send to be understood by any creature in the universe? Even if it isn't carbon-based like us, we should use something that is the same everywhere in the world. Physics. Yes, physics. We should send messages using magnetic waves. In 2013, a message was sent from the station to the star Gliese 526 for signals of different frequencies, denoted by numbers from 0 to 3, are arranged in lines of 8 bits. This is what the message looks like, but it's not understandable at all. Do you want to know how the guy from Matrix did it?
You get used to it. I don't even see the code. All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead.
Now let me explain it to you. Pay close attention. There is a key to its solution in the message itself. The 2 sequences of zeros and ones occur every other beat. They are just separators, the beginning and end of sentence. If we remove them, we get sequences like this, which also have a pattern. These fragments always stand between identical pieces on the left and right. Look at 1 and the rest are zeros, and 1 and the rest are zeros, 1 and the rest are zeros, and 3 at the end. And it's the same here, and this between different ones. Look, 1 and the rest are zeros, and 1 at the end, and 2 all zeros and 1 at the end, and so on. Here the equal and unequal signs are encrypted, so they will understand what a positive and negative number, and move on to addition. Here they will discover that this entity we call plus turns 2 and 2 into 4, and 2 minus 2 into 0, and they will say, "Oh, mathematics! Here lies the same scheme for subtraction, multiplication, exponentiation, and decimal counting system." They will understand our system of mathematics and go further. And here is where the interesting part begins. The message is so large that I will have to shorten it while I talk about what's inside. From mathematics, we move to physics. How to explain is creating to someone who doesn't know what matters kilograms, seconds, as through fundamental physics constants. If someone has created the universe, he has set precisely these parameters through them. In the message, scientists show the parameters of 3 elementary particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Now the receiver has everything to understand the periodic table and learn how we denoted chemical elements, and then find out about the main things in the solar system. About water, carbon dioxide, ammonia, methane, and others. Why do they need all this? To understand that the Sun, with its mass, radius, and age, and here are the planets Mercury, Venus, with its dense atmosphere, the giant Jupiter, and of course, the Earth, our home. In every reference, they account as the same elements, and they will understand that all this is interconnected. But they don't understand two things: humanity and life. Until Gliss 526, it's been 18 world years. If there is an intelligent civilization nearby, then it will give an answer that will reach us in 2049, the same year when Kate stops considering herself a replicant and meets an older Harrison Ford. But even earlier, in 2035, the repository in New Mexico will receive the last shipment of nuclear waste and will be sealed with certain layers of concrete and soil. A final decision will need to be made before that. What will be written to the tombstone to deter future people? But right now, while this option of inscription and danger sign is leading, and two faces, one taken from the painting The Scream and the other resembling the symbol of the White Company, it's really creepy. But the truth is, no matter what people draw, it will still encourage and inspire a desire to behind those doors in our descendants. The main problem with all of our messages is that they are static and do not change in contrast to culture. So every plaque of descendants, every signal to an extraterrestrial civilization, is doomed to become cave paintings. Everything we rely on is, at least understanding it as, hey, we were here, we existed, and here's our language,